Regardless of any standard, Kyrie Irving's origin story is complex enough. With the release of the highly praised Anta Oda 1 about Irving's father, Drederick, the former Boston University scoring queen, a Wall Street financial broker, and his story of raising his son have gradually entered the field of view of Irving's fans. As the only one NBA star who has launched a best-selling signature shoe for his father, just like his previous series of sneakers, the usual complex and diverse elements are still there. The totem symbols and mysterious languages seem to have become the marks to establish a connection. Today, we are going to talk about, or to deconstruct, is the messenger behind these marks, the complex basketball thinker, Kyrie Irving. First, let's enter the story that flows in Irving's blood, the other half of the story. Back in 1996, 4-year-old Kyrie Irving lost his mother, Elizabeth, forever. At this time, the young Irving didn't know that who was raised by a white couple but died young was an American Indian. The Lakota woman would leave a permanent spiritual mark of his Indian ancestors. However, this brand only became hot and bright 20 years later. Follow me for a different perspective. The star's deconstruction still lacks humanistic care. This is the Twilight Arena. In the 7th game of the 2016 finals, the Cavaliers were trailing 1-3 in the finals. They had already come back to Game 7. Facing the same opponent again, would the Warriors of the universe perform a miracle? The Cavaliers, who fought from full health to exhaustion, only wanted a different result from last year. And all this was settled with Irving's three-pointer. The intense game was tied with over a minute left in the 4th. The score was tied again. Irving carefully took quick steps. He dribbled to the three-point line on the wing, randomly accelerated and moved sideways. He jumped high and shot, a high arc accompanied by a crisp sound of entering the net. In the end, in front of the greatest three-point shooter in history, he made the shot the three-pointer that helped the Cavaliers win. Cleveland, this is for you. Unlike James, who cried with joy after fulfilling his promise. James, who was overjoyed and cried. After the game, he stood at the back of the crowd at the awards ceremony. Even when the Cavaliers celebrated, he didn't even show up in the camera. Until the female host Doris interviewed James, the Cavaliers owner and Tyronn Lue asked the question, "Harry, are you around us?" People just realized Irving was slowly squeezing through the crowd to the front. We have accomplished an incredible feat. This is a page in the history. Irving, he answered his championship speech so plainly. Although later statistics based on models in the NBA's annual elimination series, there has never been a ball ever changed the fate of a team. Irving's three-pointer in 2016, the probability of the Cavaliers winning the championship exceeded any ball in the history of the league. As the one who made this historic shot, it was years later that only in an interview responded to the indifference after the game. It was like climbing up one of the tallest mountains when I won the championship. And when I got up there, and you realize that all the accolades and all the achievements, it feels good. It feels great to add that to my career. But I just felt empty on top of that mountain. After a while, I just felt like I didn't really know who I was. I didn't know, and what my future was going to be, And when that happens, I didn't know where to really turn. So I started digging deep into my family lineage, and that's where it led me. It was from the off-season of 2016 that the 24-year-old Irving embarked on a pilgrimage to find his spiritual world. And the first thing he wanted to do was to find his roots, Elizabeth's Indian heritage. Since his mother passed away when he was young, Owen didn't know much about his mother, Elizabeth. But in Irving's life, he always spends a lot of time mourning her and tried to gain some inspiration. For Owen, the most practical way is to contact and connect with the Lakota tribe. This is the tribe where his mother was born. The Sioux are actually a tribal alliance mainly composed of Dakota and Lakota people. They were once the bravest warriors on the North American continent. They were considered to be the best cavalry in the world. The Sioux didn't have stirrups, but it did not affect their superb riding skills and accurate riding and shooting. Irving's bloodline came from such a brave and warlike tribe, and his excellent ball control and shooting skills, just like the riding and shooting skills of their ancestors. It is a cross-domain inheritance after entering civilization. It shocked my spiritual world. When you find your identity, you feel like you don't have to wander blindly in this world, and don't try to piece together a complete self to piece together a complete self. The mark left by his mother finally burned to the 20 years later self. Irving contacted the Leon Sugi tribe and met his fellow tribesmen with the same bloodline. He made such an exclamation. He began to seriously learn the customs, beliefs, and culture. Using his generous salary as a star, donated money to build for the tribe. Between February 2016 and February 2017, the then Leon Sioux tribe had been protesting against the government all year. The government planned a pipeline passing through the tribal reservation, threatened the water source, posed a serious threat, and directly threatened the historic ancient cemetery and cultural sites. After learning about it, immediately stood up on Twitter to speak out for the tribe. I dedicate my prayers and beliefs to every protester. I'm with you. From then on, Irving, who has 4 million followers, received more attention and support from the Native American community. At this moment, he also felt an unprecedented collective belief from outside the team. At the end of the protest in February 2017, in a media live broadcast, Irving revealed his well-known but also ridiculous flat Earth theory. It's not even a conspiracy theory. The Earth is flat. It's all happening right in front of our eyes. People should do more research, at least, and listen to more about it. Yes, I have seen pictures of the Earth, but that can't deceive me. I don't believe it's true. It seems that Owen really believes that the Earth is flat, really believes it. But after browsing the information on this channel, I found only in the mythologies of Central America's native people, the Nahuatl belief and the Mayan beliefs, there is a division of the universe into 22 Ma. There is no connection between them. This is also in the beliefs of the Native Americans, the most similar to the flat Earth theory. But this myth system and the Indian traditional culture of Owen's tribe, natural worship and animism in the Indian culture, whether in the geographical space level or in terms of ideological cognition, are very different. The flat Earth theory, whether Irving's statement was a pure reactionary nonsense, is no longer important. Because in the next year or so, Irving would repeatedly apologize for his stupidity. NBA President Adam Silver even joked, I graduated from the same university as Irving. I don't know. At that time, if he took some other strange course. In September 2017, choosing to pursue a higher status, leaving Cleveland, Irving admitted that the comment was just a joke. He argued that it was a social experiment. He wanted to know a top star like him would say such absurd remarks, what impact it would have on the public. Meanwhile, Irving also said that he believed there were more similar conspiracy theories. You can't tell me anything, right? Yeah, I'm sorry about all that. For all the science teachers. Everybody coming up to me like, I have to reteach my whole curriculum. I'm sorry, I apologize. In 2018, who had transferred to the Boston Celtics, who played for the Boston Celtics for one season. One day in the offseason of August was driven by a sense of destiny from his strong identity. He was driven to set foot in the Lakota Reservation. In Cannonball, North Dakota, the reservation spans through central Dakota, along the Missouri River, a harsh and desolate land. In fact, it is neither suitable for living nor easy to reach. But for the tribe, this is a sacred place. They have defended it for hundreds of years. They will continue to defend it. To honor his mother and learn about traditions from his people. The tribal leader also gave Owen a naming ceremony. Shaoshan became Owen's ethnic name. During this nearly 6-hour journey of finding roots, during the ceremony, Owen was completely immersed. He wore traditional clothing with big feathers hanging from his ears. He was more enthusiastic than ever at a fan meeting. He gave speeches to his people, drummed, sang, prayed, and danced. After the ceremony, Owen recalled the past like this. At some point in my life, I was almost at a crossroads with my father, sister, friends, and grandparents at a crossroads. I didn't know which direction to go because I lost my sense of grounding. After my mother passed away, there are still families like Leon and powerful families like the Lakota and powerful families. And now, I am one of them. This is my home for life. From then on, the new identity of Leon and Sue family gave Owen more elements on the ideological level. Considering the diverse and complex belief systems of Native North Americans, natural worship, ancestor worship, totem worship, idol worship, shamanism and animism, and panentheism. Thus, Owen also called himself a universalist. He emphasized to himself that he had no faction. I don't mind being a liberator or a consciousness changer. I'm not saying I'm a master with all the answers to all problems. I only know that the world is changing. During the Celtic period, after every game, Irving, when facing the media reporters, he always gave stiff and boring answers. It seems that he deliberately made himself seem difficult to be figured out by the media pawns and made a strong defensive stance. But off the court, on the internet, and on Twitch, he would throw macro-level issues for discussion instead of answering those from fans, those annoying trivial matters from fans. He often imitates various sounds freely in front of the screen and hum a tune. He laughs when seeing the audience's comments. He can always be very casual in front of the audience. Irving enjoys being on the internet, communicating with strangers on the internet. At that time, Irving began to emphasize astrology, burning sage, and bodily autonomy, which are strongly tribal in nature. Owen spent a lot of time on these things that seemed abstract to the outside world, which were mostly related to his beliefs. On the other hand, he also became more concerned about social justice and began to pay attention to the trend of online polarization. He quoted the American poet Maya Angelou's quote, "A man who stands above the words of God, which is the motto of most people, and strengthened his activism. He will buy a house for George Floyd, to buy a house for George Floyd's family, and promised to donate a 7-figure sum to supplement the WNBA players' income loss due to the pandemic." Although Irving never stopped his concrete kindness on these major issues, but the media always guide people focus on his seemingly absurd beliefs and behaviors. During his time with the Celtics, Kyrie seemed to be lost in the canyon of his own thoughts. But he still firmly believed he was the light to lead the team around the rough. A Celtics staff member who knew him commented on Irving's words and deeds. But in our opinion, it seems that since he returned to the tribe, Irving, he was deeply influenced by Native beliefs, began to advocate spiritual power. Some parts of his beliefs gradually approached shamanism. He not only carried out sacrificial activities, but also began to see himself as the team's spiritual mentor, which is similar to the role of shamans in tribes. And this spiritual power seems to make Irving start to deviate from reality and ignore the factors of the material world. His thoughts became unconventional and also made Irving in the new season gradually took a self-centered perspective to examine his Celtic teammates. He began to be self-admiring. He relied on his status as a champion point guard. Helping Boston win the championship became his promise. The veterans' experience and higher requirements became the topic that Irving emphasized most. He emphasized the most. Due to Irving's status as the team's leader, young Celtics players were inconvenient to express their opinions. But when Irving said at the post-game press conference, he said that our players are too young and lack experience. They don't know how to win the championship. He said, Jaylen Brown, who was a top student on the team with a relatively high emotional intelligence. After losing, we shouldn't blame each other. After all, the responsibility goes from top to bottom. This response seemed to finally touch Irving at that time. Irving, who had been lost in the inner wasteland for a long time, and he felt guilty, expressed his apology to fans and teammates in time. He also realized that he might be a bad example. Lack of responsibility ultimately became the Celtics era. Irving was widely criticized by the outside world. But things have come to this. It's no use talking about leading the team back on track. It was no use. In January 2019, Irving called LeBron James, making a long overdue phone call, apologized for their past differences, and sought leadership advice. Irving expressed to James candidly that I apologized for myself back then, the young player who wanted everything to be easy. Apologize. I always wanted everything to be under my control. I wanted to be the one to lead us to a championship. I wanted to be a leader. But now I realize it's really hard for me. Sometimes it's not easy to bring out the team's full potential. It's not an easy thing. But only you, LeBron, you have become the best leader in the world. and take on the responsibility of the team. It turns out that not many people can be like you. In July, at the beginning of the offseason, Boston, which is located in the high latitude and just enters summer, the city was always sunny. But Irving, it was time to take some unwillingness and unfulfilled promises to leave for Brooklyn. But at this time, 27-year-old Irving didn't know 5 years later, he finally fulfilled his promise to the Celtics fans, but in a more ridiculed way. Of course, during his time with the Celtics, was no longer the confused champion point guard. He had an unwavering belief. Off the court, he has found the answer to his bloodline for a lifetime and answered the philosophy of his own life, the ultimate 3 questions. But on the court, he lacks the qualities to be a leader of a contender. He couldn't even answer the reason for losing, explain the reason for losing. Or he tried to be like LeBron James of the Cavaliers in 16, but it always backfired. At the end of 2019, when Brooklyn fans gave the most sincere cheers to welcome Irving to New York, they never thought that 2 years after Irving's career in Brooklyn would become one of the most regrettable chapters in history. The Nets' Big Three, composed of 3 of the best, formed the Nets' Big Three, will also become a legend that only exists in the imagination of fans. On January 26, 2020, in the Nets game against the Pistons, played overtime on the road, scoring 45 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists. Although Irving conquered the Little Caesars Arena with his performance, but the entire league that day, including the Nets, didn't have any celebration. They were praying for the man who suffered a sudden disaster. Once, Irving was in the national training team who was the most active in challenging him one-on-one, who won the championship, who called him for video chat immediately. Many media speculated that the various abstract behaviors of Irving in the future started from the moment he lost his spiritual mentor. NBA reporter Kyle Irving wrote a report saying that he interviewed Nets coach Kenny Atkinson, who also agreed with this statement. Otherwise, there is no other motivation for Kyrie. For traditional tribes, the totem and its real representative, and the group's idol shaman, when they perished, the entire tribe will fall into sadness and confusion and eventually lead to 2 extremes, revenge or extinction. Simplifying everything that happened to Irving in Nets simply attributed to his idol worship in his belief system would be too one-sided. But it is not difficult to speculate that perhaps as early as before the U.S. men's basketball training day in 2012, Irving had already identified Kobe Bryant was his idol for life. He wanted to lead the team in Kobe's way, but his teammates were not ordinary players. He wanted to respond to his opponents in Kobe's way, but became a disrespectful public enemy of Boston. He was expected to be another successor to Kobe, but the criticized sportsmanship of that period, which made fans think he was not worthy. We can see from his many words and deeds see the shadow he wanted to follow. But when the idol's totem was destroyed, he fell into the same confusion as 4 years ago. Only the other half of his belief from his bloodline, the fearless struggle of the defenders. Just like his compatriots once protested against the U.S. government. He believed in his leadership skills, disdaining the former legendary point guard, Steve's coaching style at that time. He missed too many games for no reason in the name of God. He put science before faith, emphasizing bodily autonomy and refusing to get vaccinated. He didn't care about his teammates' feelings. He missed half of the home games and let the league fine him. He refused to participate in the bubble rematch. As the vice president of the Players' Union, proposed to start a new one to form a European Union, just to resist with his body the upper echelons of the league with huge market value and Irving's most controversial, deliberate anti-Semitic incident. But this time, he was suspended and fined, and was interviewed by Adam Silver, seems to have finally made Irving compromise. Although later, a close friend of Irving clarified to reporter Simon Van Zuylen-Wood on behalf of Irving. The truth is that before Kyrie posted that video, Irving didn't know what the Jews had to do with his ancestors. He just felt that he had learned some incredible knowledge and just wanted to share it. Sometimes the most conspiratorial conspiracy, the truth is so simple. That year, major sports forums on the internet were full of criticism, including Nets fans, criticized Irving, Irving was the biggest fool in sports. Kyrie was a selfish cancer that dragged down the team. Although there were countless netizens who supported Irving, as ESPN Nets reporter Nick Friedel said, I want to say what I have seen is that many players actually like Kyrie and everything he represents. Because he is a rebel. He's cool and he can't learn to obey. In fact, according to people's views, either a victim of bureaucratic absurdity or a fool who destroys his own or a fool who destroys his own team. Behind this controversy is a familiar cultural framework. From the Trump era to the pandemic era, the internet is full of nonsense, or in those who focus on eradicating this nonsense, corresponding neurotic vigilance. For Irving, the tribal bonfire in his spiritual realm guided him, is on the right path to pursue the hidden truth. The power elite from the upper class, any regulation of his beliefs and behaviors will make Irving feel more and more he is doing something incredibly right. Looking back at Irving's 3 seasons in Brooklyn, averaging 27 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists. Such an excellent answer sheet, but mixed in a pitiful 104 games. People always regret that in 2021, Irving being stepped on by Antetokounmpo. If he hadn't stepped on it, we would have predicted the Nets would win the championship. But for Irving, what he really cares about is being respected. In February 2023, with a D-level trade rating, Irving, he joined the Dallas Mavericks. When asked about his time in Brooklyn, he said frankly that he was not respected in Brooklyn. I will go to a place where people welcome me rather than one where I'm tolerated. Now I'm here. Fortunately, the fans in Dallas do love him enough. But if you told Dallas fans a year ago that Kyrie, this guy, will help you win the Western Conference title and enter the finals, they probably wouldn't believe it. I don't know if it's because of the Dallas fans' unconditional love and support for him. Irving seems to has abandoned the character description by the outside world. Irving in the Mavericks doesn't seem so solitary anymore. 32-year-old Irving has started to grow a thicker beard, like a chief who has comprehended the secrets of basketball. His style of play is still sharp and elegant. Against the Clippers, the famous scene of 3 consecutive layups was easy. His relationship with the young players of the Mavericks is very harmonious. He often chats with his friend Luka. You are the boss of the team. He no longer avoids media interviews. He would spend several minutes to tell the reporters. During the 3-month off-season, where he went, the media and fans just realized that Irving, who has let go of his leadership obsession, seems to be more like a leader than ever. During the finals in June this year, at the North Shore Garden, facing the boos of Kyrie Sakasi, with 2 consecutive poor performances on the road, returned to Dallas. At that time, this man with a full beard returned home like a wronged child. Fortunately, the American Airlines Center, with its blue ocean of cowboys, with the greatest enthusiasm, encouraged him to quickly regain his form in the finals. Just like what Irving did 8 years ago, just like the Cowboys who were watching the game did 13 years ago. Game 5 of the finals. It was also the 4th quarter. The difference is that this time it became garbage time. After going through so much, Irving finally shook hands and hugged with the Celtics' old rivals. He shook hands with each of them in advance, hugging and greeting, in the most decent way he thought. He ended that unpleasant career story. In layman's terms, Irving's career seems to be a process of continuous cognition and confusion, and then reconciled with himself. Whenever Kyrie looks back and needs to take a step forward, he was already gone. If his mother Elizabeth hadn't left a glowing and hot mark on him in the league over the years, another model figure on and off the court. The New York Magazine feature writer Simon wrote after interviewing Irving. Many of Irving's qualities for an American who has experienced most of the pandemic, who stares at the screen all day, are quite familiar in his heart. His near egocentric obsession with his identity and mistrust of national political boundaries. Radicalism on social justice issues. It's just that Irving's background is more special. Perhaps people care too much about those maverick idols and ignore the collective consensus of the times. This is also why there are always fans following Irving, although some of them don't even watch basketball. Yes, to describe Irving, there is a word that has never been used before: ordinary people.